It's Drew here with Uncommon Entrepreneurs, here with an uncommon entrepreneur buddy of mine, Anand. How you doing, Anand?
Good. How are you?
Yeah, doing good. So today we are starting a new series where we're going to interview local Puerto Rican successful entrepreneurs that are in this community that have specific zones of geniuses. And specifically, Anand, you are a master trader. So we're going to get into multiple different topics, one of which is, why Puerto Rico, kind of his run-up of success from where he came from, just to kind of give some perspective in teaching on that end, and then some thoughts on, the trading scene and like how somebody that is out there who is, has some money to play with, how to start being an effective trader when maybe that's not your full-time gig, but you want to, utilize this type of momentum that he's created. So yeah, appreciate you being on. How you doing today?
Thanks for joining me. Thanks for having me. I'm good, man. It's kind of a stressful day here, but it always is in the trading world. So yeah, good, man. So
we're here live at Trade Space, which is a brand new, immaculate trading desk floor with how many desks?
There's 14 desks.
Cool.
Yeah.
Tell us about the concept. What's going on here?
To be honest, I haven't quite figured it out yet. Basically, I kind of wanted to create a community for traders, because what I noticed in the trading community is that we're all traders. Everybody's a trader, but nobody talks to each other.
Interesting.
Nobody talks to each other because, there's kind of that old school mentality of I'm giving away my secrets or, all this kind of nonsense, when in reality, there is no secret in these markets. There might be some edge that you have found that nobody else has found, and it'll only last for a certain period of time. Sure, but for the most part, you're just buying and selling shit is what you're doing.
Gotcha.
And
there's power in community and connection and who
Definitely.
You're around, the energy.
100%, man. I have... depending on my location, I've traded at many offices, Boston, New York, Cali, and depending on the person, if it's the right person in the right environment, my performance has gone through the roof, man. So, it kind of fosters the right type of environment for these things where you can help each other out,
Yeah, camaraderie. That's
more
awesome.
so with the mental aspect, because for traders, everybody can make money trading, but the problem is you can't not lose money. You know what I mean? You don't know how to not lose money. Yeah. And that could come from so many different angles and so many different places. Like, for example, if you get cocky after some big wins, or you get used to just taking losers and you just get depressed about it and you can't get out of your own way. Every single trade you make just happens to be a loser. It's kind of like that self-fulfilling prophecy kind of thing. You need somebody to kick you in the ass, man, and just be like, listen, relax, man. Just take a deep breath.
Yeah.
Let's start over, man. It's all good,
Every day's a fresh day.
Yeah. So similar to life, man. You just need some help. And most traders don't want to admit they need help either.
Yeah.
So that's another big hurdle too.
So let's talk about your story, like where you come from, like what got you from, like where did you start prior to being as a successful trader as you are?
I mean, just like any other regular kid, man, going to college and, who knows what happens when you're in college kind of thing, where you don't know where you're going to end up. You have no idea. For me, it was mostly motivated by making money and, because my father had recently retired when I was well, not retired. It was kind of the market crash while I was still kind of learning things. And, he lost a good amount of money in the market, was ready to retire, and was depending on this money, So at the time, it was just chaos.
I bet.
So it was time for me to kind of step up, and all I was thinking was, how do I do this? How do I do this? How do I do this? And when you're younger, you have that kind of blind faith too, When you get older, you kind of lose that over the years. So it was just like, let's figure this out, man. So I was literally just trying to figure out how to make money. And I had a painting business in college. I was selling everything you could possibly think of. Like my main thing was ticket sales. So, and I've always been a buy one, sell for two guy.
Sure.
That's it. So then you kind of look at the market, and then the market happens to be the biggest environment for buy one, sell for two mentality. So I was like, all right, this looks natural.
Yeah.
This looks like a natural progression. So it's like, okay, let's do it. So that's kind of how I started. But it takes a long time to figure out how to make money in the market. Not making money, again, like we talked about before, how to control your mindset, how to control your emotions so that you can do it properly without losing yourself in the process.
Got it. So when you got started, did you have like a job you were doing and this was just a side hustle, or did you go full in?
I had my only real job I've had, and when I say real, I'm like, corporate job, was a financial analyst at a medical company. They actually have an office here in Puerto Rico. It's called Fresenius Medical Care, and they do dialysis for people with diabetes. And I was like a regular analyst. So anytime they need financial reporting or accounting or whatever, that was me. So I would come in and look at the same spreadsheet every single day, and I was never that kind of person. And I did it because I had recently had a daughter, and I had my daughter when I was in college. So it was like, okay, let's get stable here. Let's build a house and all that kind of stuff. So I did it, and I did it for I lasted 9 months.
Wow.
A whole 9 months is how long I lasted, and then after that I was just like, dude, I can't do this. It wasn't me, and then I walked into a proprietary trading office, which is basically like you put down some capital, they give you some leverage and some education.
Got it.
And they let you kind of wing it. These firms used to exist before all these commissions now went to zero. So,
Got it.
Robinhood commissions are now zero, so that business model didn't make sense anymore. So before, though, commissions were super high, this made sense. So I walked into one of those firms, and it was a bunch of young kids sitting around these computers, just like, similar to here.
Got it.
And, one kid I think made 15 grand the day I got interviewed and bought everybody pizza in the office. And I'm 23, of course. I'm like, all right, yeah, let's give this a shot. That's kind of how it happened. So I'm completely self-taught, didn't go to school for any of this stuff, and that's it. So weren't those guys in that office,
That's great. And so good. So, kind of speeding forward a little bit, you've been trading for quite some time now. What do you say is kind of your edge? Like what I know you'd said earlier, there isn't much of one, but obviously you're a unicorn in your level of success compared to most, and you have this give back mentality. But
yeah. Or what are you asking?
So more of like just going around still with your story, I guess, like how we got to Puerto Rico, or kind of maybe what was leading up to
Man,
it.
there's a lot of stories. Of course, that was 12 years ago, so when I started. So I have had a lot of ups and downs, obviously, in my trading career, as most traders have. And for me, I was always motivated. My P&L was always dictated by what I was going through in my life, So if I was low, and I did enough freaking self-loathing about everything that happened in the past, then my trajectory was always, crazy, because I had a motivation.
Yeah.
And then when I peaked out, whenever I peaked out, I kind of got comfortable. You kind of do things that you shouldn't be doing, saying yes to things that you shouldn't be saying yes to things, whether it's business, people, this, that, or whatever. And then life dishes you that lesson and takes away all your hard-earned money, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that happened a couple of times. And the last time, I think I ended up back at my parents' house after a failed hedge fund in New York.
Got it. That you had launched?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. That I ran for about 4 years, and ended up back at my parents' house.
Got it.
Just being like, shit, this can't get any worse. So I did that for maybe about 2 years, just every day, just not wanting to wake up and not wanting to deal with, because I came back home with debt, with all kinds of things, And again, you do enough self-loathing, things happen, and boom, you go back on this kind of trajectory. Now, before I went back on the trajectory, like, I knew you get to know yourself over the years, and you start realizing, like, all right, if this is going to happen again, let's create a world where you don't screw this up again.
Yeah.
At least to the massive proportions that you screwed it up before,
Yeah.
So Puerto Rico was always in my head because now we're talking about 2017.
Got it.
You know? And in 2017, after Maria happened, you know, here in Puerto Rico, I always had friends here. Like, I have a lot of Dominican friends back home, Puerto Rican friends. And so I was always comfortable in this area.
Sure.
DR and PR. And obviously I had heard about the tax incentives. And I kind of just kept pushing it off. How many people have you met now that have been like, oh, I don't have enough money to do that, to relocate, to pay the lawyers, to this and this and that, right? So it was never about that. I looked at it like, all right, if I'm going to be here, I need to set up, I got to set up this world assuming that this is going to happen.
Exactly. Bet on yourself.
Exactly. So I kind of took the risk. And the catalyst really was that I broke up with a girl that, you know, I really fell in love with, basically. And, you know, it's crazy how life can be the motivating factor for you to do these things or take these kind of risks. So I said, screw it. I'm coming to Puerto Rico. I came here and started setting everything up, and this is what you're looking at.
Yeah, that's awesome.
What you're looking
at. So it's been 2-3 years. How's the transition been? How would you put it out there for somebody that's listening, understands the tax incentives, sees the opportunity, but
yeah, it was difficult. Just like, and for me, you know, people are always, they're going to say it's easier. It was easier for you because, you know, you speak a little bit of it, and, you know, you look like Puerto Ricans. You know, so, but I look at that, I look at people saying that, and I'm like, dude, you still gotta do it, you know, and at the end of the day, you still gotta relocate yourself. So no matter for who, it's difficult, you know, because you're in a new place, you don't know anybody, you don't know how things work down here. It's an adjustment period. So I'm not gonna sit here and say, yeah, it's easy peasy. I make it pretty easy for some kids that end up here, though.
Yeah.
I do make it pretty easy for them. Because that way they don't have
the road.
They don't have the decisions to make that I did. They don't have the sweat to put in like you know, to go through it like that. However, it's still an adjustment for them as well. You're away from your home. You're away from your friends. All your friends are gonna look at you and be like, "What are you doing, dude?" Yeah. You know. So, you know, I look at it as, if I would tell anybody or give anybody advice, it's like, this is. I don't want to say it's a gamble, because it's not a gamble. This is you building the right structure for your future, you know? And this will open up your mind to so many different opportunities that you would have never thought about. You would have never thought about it.
Because you took the risk.
Because you took the risk. So it could be anywhere. So forget Puerto Rico. It could be you just leaving and going 5 miles away. It could be you just going to another state or whatever. It's just as long as you get up and you take that risk, there's so much that can happen. There's so much possibility that you open yourself up to. Here, you happen to be opening yourself up to a lot of possibility, way more than you would if you're just moving in state or, you know, in the state somewhere.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about what you're building here with this trade space, how it fits into kind of your bigger business goals, and kind of what that it's all about.
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, I don't really know exactly where this is going to go, but what I've seen through a lot of the meetups that I've done all over the U.S. is that there's a lot of traders that are mentally in a bad place, man, you know, and I was too. I know how this is. You know, you focus too much on the money, you start losing yourself, you start losing your identity, you start losing all this kind of stuff. And you start attaching it to how much money you have or how much money you don't have. And I see that in the trading world really, really, really aggressively. And it's kind of sad. But that's where a majority of people are, believe it or not, you know. Even people who are already good, you still see it.
Yeah.
People who have way more, and people who have amounts that other people would be like, yo, if I had that, I'd be good. In reality, you wouldn't, because if you're not good already with or without the money, it doesn't matter. It's only gonna make it worse, believe it or not. And most people won't understand that until you get there yourself, and you will. All of you will. And you'll be like, damn, there's something else missing. So I kind of created this to find that, or to have people talk more about that.
Yeah. One thing I admire about what you're doing, and it's so obvious, we've known each other for like a year, you really appreciate giving back and kind of like education.
Definitely.
And maybe tell a little bit more about that and your passion.
Definitely, man. I mean, I think it's just a way to, selfishly speaking, we always do things with ourselves in mind, right? I mean, yeah, you're giving back, but, for example, we recently put a roof on a house that couldn't get funding basically from FEMA. And Puerto Rico is kind of a shit show when it comes to FEMA and just getting money for natural disasters and things like that. And, we did it. It was great. And selfishly speaking, it's kind of a way for people to just reconnect with people and just realize, like, all right, you can be at whatever level over here, but you weren't, at some point in your life, somebody in your family or you were also here. And we tend to forget that. We tend to forget it every day. You're going to forget it every day because you have to deal with whatever you're dealing with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, it's kind of just a way to connect back to people. And when you connect back with people, you start to look at yourself from other viewpoints. And when you do that, you can really just be aware of where you're at.
Sure.
And, what things that you should be working on,
Sure.
And money is just it's another one of those things. It's another one of those things that just pulls you away.
Sure.
So, yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
So maybe if we pivot to, with all of your experience in trading, if you wanted to drop a couple gems to the audience, as far as if somebody had some money to play with, maybe they've created success in whatever realm they're in, but now they're realizing they could leverage and trade, and the skill set once learned is so applicable.
Sure.
What would you kind of say to somebody like that?
Yeah, I mean, for folks that don't have too much experience trading, realize that you do. You've gotten to wherever you've gotten by taking either your services or taking a product and finding a demand for said product or said service and created something out of nothing, technically. So you've turned the value of something into something higher. And that's all, that's really all we're doing when we're trading. We're just looking at information and seeing if supply and demand will move. And if it moves, there's money to be made on whatever side of the place you want to go.
Got it.
So if you look at it from that point, everybody is a trader. Everybody can be a trader. Everybody understands the mechanics of what it would be to be a trader. Not everybody can trade every day and do aggressive, active trading. But a good amount of people can easily pick up their phone and say, hey, I like what this company's doing. Let me buy, let me put 10 grand in this thing. Let me put 20 grand in this thing. I believe in the story. And there's so much access to be able to do that. And not let alone crypto, which is so you have whole new worlds opening up with crypto.
Yes.
That people, especially most people who don't have any experience with crypto, they kind of just look at it as, oh, this is crazy, we don't understand it, and da-da-da-da-da. But the problems that are being solved through the blockchain, you wouldn't even believe this shit exists. You'd just be like, wow, you can do that? And there's so many applications. I'll give you one right now. Like to set up a hedge fund in any state in the United States, it's going to cost you 40 to 50 grand. There's a way to do it through the blockchain where it'll cost you $50. And you don't have to deal with all the regulation. You don't have to deal with all the bullshit of the SEC, FINRA, and all that kind of stuff. Granted, it's a different world, so people don't understand it. It's going to be difficult for you to get an investor to invest in this.
Sure.
But the fact that it exists and somebody's thinking about this and coming up with a solution that people like myself have a serious problem with, that one use case alone is one out of thousands of use cases that people are solving these problems through the blockchain. So if that's your shtick, come down here and meet a bunch of crypto people and start masterminding some stuff that you can do all that stuff, here in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
You know, it's very strange that all of these different industries and these different worlds are colliding on this particular island.
Yeah, that's very, very valid. I think that the blockchain in Puerto Rico there's so many innovative free thinkers, and that I'm glad you brought that point up. So somebody that had some money to play with, is it something that I admire that you publicly do is you have a monthly P&L report, and
Definitely.
if you've made money or you lost, you're very open. What's your thought process behind that? You seem pretty unique in the industry for doing that.
Yeah, the weird thing is that, I mean, it's not weird. It happens outside of trading as well. People don't like to talk about their failures. People are very scared of failure, so of course they don't want to talk about it. So it doesn't, not necessarily in trading, in life, in whatever it is that you do, nobody likes to be honest when they messed up or they made a mistake, and I think we're slowly coming into a world where people are talking about that.
Yeah.
And I think it's great. I think it's great that we've kind of come into this new year, new century, or new decade, I believe. And, people are starting to open up about this stuff, which is really good. It helps everybody get over the bullshit of it.
Yeah.
And get over it faster, So after crawling back in my hole from New York after failing, I dealt with that aggressively, and then looking back at it, instead of wasting the 3 years being depressed, maybe you only spend a month like that.
Yeah.
Maybe you feel what you need to feel, you get it out, you move the fuck on.
Yeah.
And, so it was a way to try to do that for my particular community.
Yeah.
It was like, hey, nobody's showing their losses.
Yeah.
But you guys are all out here talking about you have no problem saying you just made a mill on Tesla, but you have all the problems in the world telling people that you lost a mill before you made the damn mill. So in reality, you're flat. You know what I mean? But you showed everybody that you made the million.
Sure.
Everybody has to, as a trader, you have to lose money to make the money.
Yeah.
You have to. There is no world that exists where you don't. But that whole world is obscure from everybody.
Sure.
So what are you really showing? You know what I mean? So I was like, if I'm not showing the world as it exists in all of its in all of its glory and all of its whatever, then who am I? What are we doing here?
Yeah.
Exactly. So that was the point. That was the idea.
That makes a lot of sense. And so something, maybe a perspective of somebody that's watching who, is starting to trade, and they see, you post the losses and profits, etc. Is there a point when you've learned that it becomes like it can be consistent, that you have earned this skill set, you'll continue making money, or some people kind of give up and they're intimidated by that?
Yeah, it really depends. I mean, there's a mental toughness that you need to have, of course, because losses are going to happen. So it really depends on how you look at your losses. If you look at them as failures and losses, and you look at yourself as lesser, because of these things, then chances are you're not going to come back too many times, because you have this feeling of self-worth that is now lower, and that's not only in trading, it's life and everything. So if you value your self-worth off of the failures that you might have, it's gonna be an uphill battle for you.
Sure.
And you're gonna need a jolt. Everybody needs that kind of jolt, and they'll look for the jolt in other ways. But it's difficult, especially if you've habitualized feeling less worthy.
Yeah.
Because of things that have happened to you. If that's the case, I mean, there's not much anybody can do for you. It has to come from you. So you're the only one that has to crawl through that hole. As much as you look outside for solutions, you ain't going to find them. You're not going to find them anywhere,
Valid point. And I think maybe the last, couple minutes going on that like line of thinking, like something that it's obvious you take a lot of time is to like read about kind of, the neuroscience of things. And
definitely.
So what's some revelations you had recently kind of in that area that could help some people?
Oh, man. I mean, again, it's a science that it's strange how the world has to now attach themselves to something for growth to happen in a particular field. I mean, there's been neuroscience since freaking Nikola Tesla, for Christ's sake.
Sure.
So, there's been neuroscience from Einstein. There's been neuroscience from all that. But it's only now that everybody is starting to pay attention to their behavior, to their decision-making, to their whatever. And, I don't think I'll say anything that most folks haven't already heard or have start to hear.
Sure.
But awareness, self-awareness is sort of the key to looking at all the processes that you have.
Sure.
Whether good or bad, but you can't even look at those through a bias lens.
Yeah.
So most of the time when we look at our own decision-making, our own behavior or whatever, we look at it from the ego perspective. It's like, dude, I'm good. I don't need none of this shit.
Sure.
It's their problem. Everything is their problem. And then finally, when you start to become self-aware, now you're like, oh shit, it's my problem. It's me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's like a big
It is a big
awakening.
shift.
It's a big awakening for a lot of people. But if you're able to look at it that way, there's other levels that you can reach way beyond what you're capable of doing through your ego.
Sure.
The ego will take you far. Ego will take you freaking far.
Yeah.
But it ain't gonna take you to these other levels that I'm talking about. So it's past the ego. So if you got a lot of ego, start working that shit out. And it's not like ego is a bad thing. It's not like it's a bad thing at all. But it's just we allow it to kind of run away, and it brings us to places that may get us into a lot of trouble.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the same thing on the other side.
Yeah.
If you have this propensity to get depressed or, angry at yourself or whatever, you can do it to a point where bad things are going to happen.
Yeah.
So like they always say, everything in balance. And again, this is the reason why we always say these things is because it's so fucking difficult to get to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People have been telling me that whole life. You have to have balance. I'm like, I look around at everybody. I'm like, dude, you don't have a shred of balance. You're sitting here telling me to do it. But that's what you see everywhere. It's very difficult. It's very difficult to get there. And you're always going to skew to one side, and that's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. You're going to bring yourself back, and it's fine. So me, I have the tendency to kind of beat myself down a little bit.
Sure.
And now, slowly, I'm starting to realize, like, dude, none of it even matters.
Sure.
And, if I got game, I'll come right back.
Yeah, exactly.
I get to this other level.
It's a mindset that you're in.
That's all it is, And people think about time a little bit too much. It's like, yo, I'm wasting time. I'm wasting time. What the fuck else are you going to do? You know what I mean? Like, you have to spend that time to make those mistakes.
Yeah.
So that you'll learn from them, or you'll get better from them, or whatever. And the mistakes will keep happening if you continue to neglect the awareness part of it.
Yeah. So as you're hearing, we have to wrap up this interview, but where could people find your content to kind of learn more with this mentality?
No doubt. My sort of alter ego is Sang Lucci. So SANGLUCCI. Anybody can find me. Just go ahead and Google. I'm like that on all social media. So all my content is YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. So you can find me there. TradeSpace has its own unique IG called TradeSpace PR, which we may change down the line. We don't know. This what you're seeing here is I'm winging it. I'm winging it. So that's the stage that I'm at mentally, and those are the problems that I want to start helping traders solve.
Connection, community, helping them feel okay. It's pretty powerful.
It's like, trading is a very lonely thing. If they had to equate it and make it like a sport, they would always say tennis. They would always say tennis, because tennis, you're there by yourself.
Sure.
You have to make split-second decision on spin, speed, position, where you want to be on the court, strategy, all that kind of stuff. So they'll mirror those two, you know, really, they'll compare those two pretty aggressively. And again, it's a lonely freaking thing. It doesn't have to be. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be.
And
So,
you've created an awesome environment for that.
that's kind of what I want to do. And plus, the ideas that you can generate just by talking to other traders openly about losses, about this and that, there's a lot of growth back there.
Yeah.
So why don't we do it that way? I mean, if I'm going to trade and be fucking lonely, I might as well be, you know, I might as well be trying to grow and trying to figure out more things about myself and my craft and all that kind of stuff.
That's wise in any industry to do for sure. So you're creating the environment. So signing off for today, check out his information below. We'll put that you know, how you can follow him, etc. Come check out this space. It's worthy of a tour and checking it out if you're coming down to Puerto Rico to visit. And talking to you guys soon.
Thanks.